Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Erin Rogers from Hewlett. So Winsome started off giving the origin story of the Macintosh Foundation. I thought I'd do the same with the Hewlett Foundation. And I want to take us back to the 1930s in California, where there was a very avid Sierra Club member named Louise, who, with her friend Ansel Adams, joined the Mint Julep Club of the Sierra Club, where they would mix up some cocktails, hike out to beautiful places, and drink them together, which I think is a great idea. On one of these outings, Louise's little brother, Bill, came with them, and he met one of the fellow hikers named Flora. They bonded over their love of hiking, their conservation work, and they ended up getting married that same year. Bill and his friend Dave started a little company in their garage called the Hewlett Foundation. And 30 years later, when the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation was started, they embedded that foundation with this deep conservation ethic that they personally had and that their kids and their grandkids had. And it's in the DNA to this day of the Hewlett Foundation. So flash forward to 2017, the Hewlett Foundation has become one of the largest philanthropic institutions in the US. We give out about $400 million a year in grants to organizations around the globe. And we're very aware that all of the conservation work that the foundation has funded over the last 50 years is facing an existential threat due to climate change. In fact, almost all the work the foundation funds now, whether it be women's empowerment, global development, democracy itself, is facing grave risk, danger from climate change. And so about a third of the foundation's money now goes to advocacy organizations that are working to reduce global warming emissions, mainly from burning oil for transportation, burning coal and natural gas for electricity, and from deforestation. And I know that a lot of us can get easily overwhelmed, including myself, with fear and anxiety and even anger about what's at stake with climate change. And when we see the opposition to climate action out there, especially at this time in history. And I'm plagued with a deep sense of foreboding as to what may come if we are not able to act fast enough. We are fighting to avoid every additional increment of warming that we can, because we know that as the thermostat ticks up, the damages are exponential. But that being said, there are reasons for hope, and we can't give up. And I want to tell you about some recent successes in the United States that exemplify the transition from dirty energy to clean energy that are happening, and maybe in some places and in some ways that you haven't heard about or might not expect. So you all know that one of the United States' biggest sources of global warming emissions is burning coal and coal-fired power plants. And a lot of these coal-fired power plants are located in the Midwest and the Southeast, where the politics around clean energy are pretty tough. When I came on board at the Hewlett Foundation in 2011, I started to team up with our funder colleagues in the Midwest, McKnight, MacArthur, Gund Foundation, and also Energy Foundation in San Francisco. And what we wanted to do was try to build some political space in the Midwest for decision makers to find a path forward on clean energy, despite a lot of opposition from the coal companies and the utilities. And we wanted to try to break this binary logjam that we felt environmental advocates had been in for so long, where it was really environmentalists versus coal companies, or jobs and prosperity versus clean air and clean water, conservatives versus progressives, us versus them. We wanted to really unlock that and just create a whole new surround sound of all different kinds of voices advocating for clean energy. So we started to fund a much wider array of groups. For instance, in Ohio, we realized that the hospitals and the manufacturers, heavy energy users, really wanted cleaner energy and more efficiency. And so we started funding the Hospital Association and the Manufacturers Association. In Michigan, we found that there were actually a lot of conservatives who believed in energy liberty and they wanted to break away from their utility monopolies. And so we started funding the Christian Coalition and farmers and former Republican staff people and chambers of commerce leaders. In Illinois, we were supporting labor unions and consumer watchdog groups that were just made up of little old ladies who were just tenacious, and environmental justice groups. In Minnesota, clean energy businesses and consumer groups. And for the first couple years, we knew it would take a while for these groups to build up capacity and strength. So we wanted to give this time. The first couple of years, they got a lot better at warding off the attacks, but they weren't able to make progress on getting new policies and strengthening policies. And started to get a little nervous. Like, okay, is this going to work? I'm telling my board that this is going to work. I'm really hoping it will. We adjusted our funding. We learned. We funded more communications, coordination support. Kept trying. Finally, in 2016, these groups started delivering some really big successes. So last year, for instance, Minnesota, their electric utility, their biggest utility, made a pledge to reduce its global warming emissions 60% by 2030. Illinois passed the most comprehensive climate clean energy and clean energy jobs legislation in its history, and Republican Governor Ronner was hoisting the bill over his head during the signing ceremony. He was a huge champion on the legislation. Michigan, Republican governor, Republican legislature passed renewable energy and energy efficiency mandates last year with overwhelming Republican support in their legislature. And in Ohio, similarly, Governor Kasich was a champion for clean energy because he knew the jobs potential in the state and kept their standards growing. So all of these, once these policies are added up, they're significant in terms of the emission reductions potential. It's like 19 million cars off the road equivalent. But I almost feel like even more importantly is the political example that was created, the political space that was created for all different voices to find their own path forward on clean energy. And we've started this virtual cycle where as the clean energy industries start to expand and grow, they're creating jobs, they're providing health benefits, and this virtuous cycle will continue to spin. So I will close there by saying we know at the federal level things are going to be log jammed in the best case scenario for a while. But we can make significant progress at the state and local level. And I urge all of us to do what I think happened in the Midwest, which is work with diverse partners, be innovative in how we approach the problem, and focus on solutions that provide economic benefits, health benefits, and make sure that those benefits are distributed equitably and not just accumulated within certain demographics. I really believe that's what's needed to drive the successes at a rate quick enough for us to avoid the worst impacts of global warming. The technology exists today for us to make the switch to 100% clean energy right now. The thing that's holding us back the most is just political and public will and leadership. The good news is that those are renewable resources that we all have inside ourselves, and the more we use them, they're not depleted, they're replenished, and they get stronger and stronger the more we use them. So I hope all of you will join us in flexing those muscles. Thanks.